Hello and welcome to another video on AV Forums. I'm Phil Hinton, the site editor, and in this video we're reviewing the Samsung QN800B 8K QLED TV. The Samsung QN800B is an 8K TV, and in the 2022 lineup it sits just below the flagship QN900B and is available in screen sizes of 65, 75 and 85 inches. We're reviewing the 65-inch model here. The set boasts a VA panel with the latest mini LED backlight technology with quantum dots and is attached to Samsung's Neo quantum processor 8K to create the perfect marketing term for the Quantum Matrix Technology Pro. Did you get all of that? Samsung is still the front runner when it comes to introducing 8K TVs to the market and is trying its hardest to extol the virtues of the higher resolution format over 4K. Of course, there's still the severe lack of quality content, with Hollywood only now embracing 4K output for some of its features, so 8K is still quite a distance away for motion pictures. There is 8K streaming, and the QN800B offers this via the YouTube app, so you can watch some native 8K content that way. Samsung doesn't see the lack of 8K content as an issue, and it points to its AI-powered processing as a means to upscale HD and 4K content to the native 7680 by 4320 resolution of the panel. There is support for HDR10, HDR10 Plus and HDR10 Plus adaptive, as well as hybrid log gamma HLG. But once again, Samsung does not offer Dolby Vision on the QN800B. This could be a sticking point for many consumers looking to tick boxes when it comes to features and must-haves on their next TV. The Samsung is a good-looking TV with a modern design which follows the recent QLED family appearance of a central stand and a sleek, rectangular solid panelled finish. It is a full array local dimming TV, a fouled backlight using mini LEDs, so there is a bit of depth to the panel, but the edges are also perforated to allow for cooling and the audio from the OTS Plus sound system. The screen is an almost bezel-less appearance and the stand looks solid. However, looks can be deceiving and the build quality is not the best here, with a wobble to the entire TV when it's attached to the provided stand. Obviously this won't be an issue once it's set up and left alone, but the set never quite feels solid. The One Connect box is a sleek and slim unit made from plastic. It is slightly different to the unit used on the flagship 4K QN95B with a larger power supply, but the same connections are on the rear. Here we have 3 USB slots, 4 HDMI 2.1 48GB per second ports with eARC, ARC on HDMI 3, a CI slot, 1 RF and 2 satellite antennas, as well as a digital audio out and a LAN port. As we do with all reviews, we factory reset the panel and then measured the picture presets to find which is the most accurate to the industry standards out of the box. The best preset on the Q800B is Filmmaker mode, which switches off all the unwanted processing with accurate colour and D65 white balance retained. The grayscale tracking is good, with only 100% stimulus showing any error, and this is a result of the local dimming. Our Delta E errors are well under the visible threshold of 3, apart from 100%, where we have a slight reduction in red due to the local dimming forcing it too bright at this stimulus. But this is nothing to worry about. Our gamma tracking is a little bit too dark, and this does cause some crush within the lowest black levels, and the overall image is slightly dark as a result of gamma being around 2.5. The Rec 709 HD colour gamut results are reasonable, but there are a few saturation issues present. We have oversaturation to all the primary and secondary points, with the gamut being slightly too large against the standard. This is sometimes noticeable with skin tones within some content viewed, and it's a real shame that we don't have more accuracy here to the standards in the Filmmaker mode. Perhaps Samsung could fix this with future firmware. Whilst calibrated, we managed to dial in some reference level results here, with the grayscale now tracking accurately as it should, and Delta E errors are well under 2, which is well below the threshold of 3. Gamma is now tracking better, especially in the shadows with no obvious crush now seen, but the brighter parts of the grayscale are still slightly dark when it comes to gamma. The Rec 709 HD colour gamut is now tracking saturation much better following a few small tweaks. Red is now better along with green, while blue is still very slightly over. Overall, the results are much closer to where we should be for SDR content, and we didn't notice any visible errors with actual TV and film content. Following HDR measurements, we can see that the QN800B is able to produce a peak brightness of 1420 nits on a standard 10% window, with a full 100% window measuring in at 542 nits. This is lower than the QN95B that we tested at the same time, and this is due to the pixel density of the 8K panel and the backlight struggling to get enough light through to match the 4K panel. We can also see with the lower results at 1 and 2% that the QN800B is also employing blooming suppression when it detects small bright highlights within a scene. The PQ EOTF tracking is poor in the filmmaker mode, with over brightening of the standard in the midtones. This looks too bright with HDR10 content, and it doesn't follow the standards that filmmaker mode should for HDR. The wide colour gamut results are also over brightened, with 75% saturation points pushed too bright that they almost line up with the full 100% points. This is again a real shame and blows away the advantage of using the quantum dots for colour volume depth, as the colours are pushed so hard for saturation by Samsung. We measured BT 2020 at 69% XY and 75% UV, with P3 coming in at 94% XY and 97% UV. Just like the recently tested QN95B, we have a VA panel used in the QN800B, and this also has the ultra-wide viewing angle anti-reflective screen, meaning that you can sit much further off axis than with normal VA type panels and not suffer from the same gamma and colour shifting. Plus, ambient light hitting the screen is reflected away, so it doesn't cause any major reflections that distract from your viewing experience. This does have a slight drawback in displaying a rainbow type trail with any light source hitting the screen directly, as you can see in this shot, but this can be managed and prevented with careful positioning of the TV and your light sources. As always with LCD TVs, the panel uniformity can be an inherent issue of the technology, and even using mini LEDs, the QN800B does suffer from some slight bright edges and a darker centre on most of the slides, as well as some visible clouding. Dirty screen effect is also seen within content, with large areas of colour and a moving camera, such as football pitches or skies, being an issue. Blooming is also an issue, especially with HDR content, where bright objects can produce halo light blooming around them when against a black background, or subtitles within a dark scene. There is a degree of blooming suppression used by the QN800B, and if a certain percentage of the screen is bright against a dark background, the APL is lowered and those highlights are dimmed slightly to stop any blooming from being obvious. It is more visible when viewing from the side of the screen or in the dark, but some was still visible in normal living room conditions with ambient lighting. With 8K TVs, the quality of the upscaling and video processing needs to be class leading, as 90% of the content you view on a regular basis in 2022 is going to be 4K at best, and more likely HD in the vast majority of cases. Motion is good with correct 5.5 pull-down of 24 frames per second content, with no signs of induced judder or motion blur that shouldn't be within the content naturally. Additionally, 50Hz broadcast material is correct, with no signs of frame skipping seen, even with fast cuts or difficult multi-camera programs. Switching on motion clarity does introduce frame interpolation, as well as soap opera effect, and artifacts can be seen within the image. SDR looks good on the QN800B, with strong blacks, natural and lifelike colours, and decent motion in the most accurate filmmaker mode. HDR is also good, but with some caveats that do impact on the overall performance. The measurements showed a strong peak brightness of 1420 nits and a full screen peak of 442 nits, but with actual HDR10 content, we found that the performance just wasn't quite that bright or impactful. In terms of 8K versus 4K, which is a common question when we review these screens, we put the 65-inch QN800B and the 65-inch QN95B side by side for an afternoon of testing, which was done in SDR and HDR filmmaker mode with a mixture of content and from our normal viewing position, which is 5 to 6 feet away from the screens. After many hours of testing, I can honestly say that I struggled to see any marked difference between the TVs when it came down to resolution alone. Overall, the QN800B is a good quality 8K TV with generally good picture quality for SDR and HDR content, with plenty of useful features and a very good OS and smart TV system. It sounds good too thanks to OTS Plus and has a well designed look and comes with the slimline One Connect box, which makes it ideal for wall mounting. It is, however, very expensive at £3,499 at the time of this review, and it's up against some serious OLED competition this year, including Samsung's very own S95B QD-OLED. If you like our videos, then please give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And of course, you can read the full in-depth review of this TV at avforums.com. Thanks for watching.